All right, everybody, good afternoon. It is 1 o'clock, and so we will go ahead and get started with our discussion today. Thank you all very much for tuning in. We welcome you to this afternoon's discussion with Pasco County Property Appraiser Mike Wells. This panel discussion is organized and hosted by the Government Affairs Committee at Greater Tampa Realtors. It's part of our ongoing monthly series of panel discussions and conversations with people and organizations within the greater Tampa Bay community that have an impact in the lives and businesses of us as real estate agents, realtors, as well as our community as well. My name is Nico Homan. I am the 2021 chair of the Government Affairs Committee. And along with my vice chair, Rick Pfeiffer, the Government Affairs staff at GTAR, we welcome you to this panel discussion. Now I'd like to introduce our featured guest speaker, Mike Wells. Mike is a Pasco County native. He was elected to serve as the Pasco County Property Appraiser in November of last year and began his term earlier this year. Prior to serving as the county's property appraiser, he served as a commissioner representing District 4 for the Board of County Commissioners for Pasco County. He served there for 6 years prior to coming to the role of property appraiser. Mike is also, or was a licensed real estate agent and a member of the Realtor Association. So he knows very much what everybody is going through right now here watching this. So we appreciate Mike being a real estate agent as well. Fun fact, Mike's father, Mike Wells Sr., also served as the Pasco County Property Appraiser as well. So a little bit of family history there too. So Mike, those are a couple of things that we know about you. Tell us a couple of things that we might not know about you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, Nico. And thanks for everybody. I tell you, 45 participants is awesome. It makes my day to see that because we normally don't see the kind of engagement, unfortunately, for folks. And to me, like, this is all about us working together, so like you said, I've grown up here, in Pasco County. My dad actually was county commissioner when I was a kid. And if you told me today that or 10 years ago, I would have been into politics, I would have said you're crazy. I saw what my dad went through, but I also saw my dad make a difference, and Curtis Law, who's my chief deputy, who's sitting here next to me. He may chime in a few just because I'm pretty new, obviously 7 months in. But his dad also served with my dad as a county commissioner, which is kind of funny. It's really neat. I'm proud of that. So it is cool to kind of take over from my dad, and Mr. Joyner, who was here for the 4 years. And but this is our county. So, when I first got elected, and I try to tell the team this too, I'm like, we want to hear from the team on things we can do better. Same with the realtors. Like, I was a realtor. I used to write to my dad, what's up with the website? Like, for instance, hey, how come we don't have number of bedrooms in there? It would make my job easier, Dad, if we had number of bedrooms. And he's like, well, son, and he kind of walked me through why. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I get why you just do the bathrooms. And, so there's several things over the years that I've kind of versed, but it all comes down to you. And it's not only you, but my goal at the beginning, taking over office, was to deal with like the title members, title agencies that use the site every day. It could be the attorneys that use the site every day. So we're setting meetings with the attorney, local, whatever you call that board of, just to listen to, hey, what do you like? What do you don't like? What can we do different as property appraisers? Because the county's growing so much, as you all know. We got 50 now. You all know, Hillsborough, Pinellas has pretty much grown out, but we certainly are not. And I'll go over some statistics today, and it's pretty crazy to see where we've come. I've lived in this county for 40 years, let's call it. And back when I was here, it was 150,000 population. Now we're at close to 550. We're talking about by 2040, 2045, being close to 1 million. It's a big number. Luckily I'm smart, surround myself with good people, and it's a great thing. So I have a great family that's supportive, and I love what I do. But again, it comes down to the team and each of you. We want to listen. We want to get better. We love our community, as each of you do. That's it. So I don't want to ramble too much, but I want to make sure we have time to talk. So it's good. So
absolutely. Well, no, all of that, a new position, throw in a global pandemic in the middle of that too. So, kind of how are some of the day-to-day challenges, but also kind of big picture challenges with some of the effects of COVID? How's that kind of played into your office so far?
Yeah, it's been interesting. You know, and even like as a commissioner, it was interesting because we went to like, you know, and one of the things like as a commissioner, and even like I've talked to you all about so far, is getting the community involved, like listening to the community. And it was tough when you're doing everything virtual, but also it was good because it brings people that maybe couldn't make it to a commission meeting to get on Zoom or WebEx to discuss. So in some instances, we've come a long way and it's for the better, I think. I think people are getting more technological driven, if you will, you know, I'm trying to do more online, but we also love when people come in. We want, you know, I worked for Enterprise Rent a Car 18 years, that I left out. That's what we pride ourselves on, is the customer, you know, shaking their hand. It's a little different now, you know, you all know, talking to them, maybe not getting too close. You don't want to make sure, but it's definitely been, I don't want to say a challenge. I'm trying to look at some notes. Yeah, I mean, we obviously took it very seriously. We've got a gentleman out now with COVID, and just pray that him and his family are going to be okay. He's symptomatic, but all we can do is be there for him and make sure he has everything he needs, and not worry about the job, and just take care of his family. So it's, you know, we've had everything, the CDC guidelines, but really I'm to the point now where I'm not going to tell my employees what they should or shouldn't do with vaccines. That's their opinion. You know, we still have the clear glass up, but again, if they want to wear a mask, they can. Same with residents, but just keep that distance, the CDC guidelines. And to be honest, like I said, I think it's brought the team closer. You know, they had a month before I got here, they closed down for a month, but you know, and working from home isn't a bad thing. I think, well, realtors, that's all you do. But as companies, I think it kind of wakes you up to see who can work better at home unsupervised and who can't. And it's not a bad thing. You know, we're working on actually a policy for just that. So folks that maybe have a situation, it's not a bad thing. That's where the future, I think, has changed. And again, I don't know how much time we have, but I'm trying to be somewhat to the point, but we could talk about that all day.
Sure, absolutely.
Really, well, you know what I mean? So
and certainly it has been a lot of, you know, unfortunate, you know, situations that have happened with COVID, but there have been a couple silver linings too. You mentioned, you know, some of the technology improvements and some of the ways that we were growing that way. Can you tell us a little bit of some of the ways that your office has kind of expanded and you know, added some more technology tools to some of the things that the office is doing?
And that's the biggest thing, is technology. And I've always said, you know, if we invest in the technology, I'd much rather pay my people, pay the team more money to do more. Work smarter, not harder, you know. So we're made a big investment. You know, we have our fiscal year, you know, state statute is through October 1. So our new budget, we're investing, what's the number? 400,000. What's the number we're investing in technology? Yeah, like 400,000 just in technology. Our budget last year was, you know, controlled by Mr. Joyner. So we're a little lean on the budget to be able to do a lot of stuff this year, but we're still able to, like, just appraised is helping. I don't know that Hillsborough, Pinellas use that, you know, the WebEx system. Like, we've got 3 offices, one in Newport Richey, one in Land O'Lakes, one in Dade City. You know, we may have like directors meetings every couple of weeks, to where it's, my opinion, it's an oxymoron to expect somebody to drive an hour for a 2-hour meeting and drive an hour back, to where we can do what we're doing here. Yes, it's great. It would be great to meet all 62 of you and shake your hand and talk about you and get a card. And I love those kind of things. But you know what I mean? So I'm trying to think, you know, remote work software, you know, we're in the process of revamping the entire website. I know Mike Twitty just redid his. I know Craig and Inverness are up in Citrus County, is redoing his. So we're trying to really make it more user-friendly, less clicks. And quite frankly, to be honest, and try to make it easier for all of you. I mean, and we'll get into that. And I know it's one of the questions, but we want to make it easier for all of you. Like, there's been several changes we've made from the West Pasco Board of Realtors. There's several changes we're in the process of making going forward. And if it wasn't for us going to the meeting and saying, hey, what can we do better? And they really were like, we never really had anybody really, ask us that and really drill it down. And it was an unbelievable meeting, which I'm sure today is going to be too. But the best ideas come from others. Your folks and are on the website every day, all day sometimes. You know, we want to make it easier. So it's, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate that. So kind of, yeah, well, let's back up a little bit. So for some of the people that are on this call, they're brand new to real estate. brand new real estate agents, they might not necessarily know all the things that the property purchase website or even the office of the property appraiser does. So can you kind of give us a big picture overview of what is the functionality of the property appraiser's office?
Well, first and foremost, our goal is to make sure we have, and I'm trying to, and keep in mind, I'm literally 7 months in. So when you talk about drinking out of a fire hose, yes, I sold real estate for the last 6 or 7 years. Yes, my dad was property appraiser, but I had really, I know how to take care of people. I know how to manage people. I know how to, be out in the community and listen to folks and give back to the community and put others before myself. So, but with that, it's our first and foremost is, fair and accurate tax roll period. And it's been interesting when I get phone calls from, like, I just got a phone call from somebody yesterday, a realtor. Hey, we're trying to list this house, and we think we can get 1.2 for it, but we're looking on your website and it's only worth you're only showing it for 250,000. When's the last time you've done a recheck on it? Which by statute we have to do rechecks every 5 years. We're averaging about 3.5 years. And making sure our value is close to that 85% number of the just value of the house in this case. I'm just I don't mean to read off. I'm not trying to be, but I want to make sure that, especially like you said, the new folks. And the key is, like, at the end of this, I'll give my cell phone number. I want people to call me. I want that you all to call the office. If you need something, if you see something, if there's a mistake or an opportunity for us to fix it or do something different, we want to know that. We're working on infrastructure stuff. Again, that goes back to, I've already got that. I'm just sorry. I'm trying to look at notes and to make sure I don't forget anything, because I really took the time last night to kind of go through to make sure. A lot of the big stuff is the exemptions, like, and I would assume, and I don't want to assume here, that the realtors would all know, because we kind of count on them when they're at their title company and they're finishing up that contract, and they explain to the customer, hey, listen, you're buying your house now, let's say today, July 23rd, I know you're, homestead, it could be portability, it could be something they want to port. Hey, keep in mind the homestead exemption is not going to take effect until January of 2022. I can't believe how many questions we get from that. It's kind of crazy. And we do get the pamphlets out to the title companies, the realtors have it too. And I know that it's your obligation to explain to folks, but I understand sometimes we may miss it. And I'm trying to think what other kind of opportunities out there, maybe for the new realtors or.
Sure. Well, we'll touch on something you talked about mentioning, the fair and accurate, valuations, that, and having a tax roll, and with that comes, the valuation of a property. So can you kind of walk us through a little bit? What are some things that go into, from your office's perspective, valuing a piece of property? Is it all by hand? Is it automation? Is it a little bit of both? Kind of walk us through that process a little bit.
It's a little bit of both. Do you want to try to? I'm going to introduce you to Kurt. Again, he's my chief deputy. To give you a little history with him. He's been with this office 30 years, correct? He retired basically a year ago. I hired him back, which worked out good. Like I said, surround yourself with people smarter than yourself. So if you don't mind, I've got it written down, but I just know he can just say it more.
Sure,
if you don't
absolutely.
mind.
Yeah, so, Kurt, take it away.
Can you see me?
We can see you and hear you, so go ahead.
All right. Yeah. Mass appraisal really has not changed at all. We still have to follow professional standards, administrative code and statutes. A typical, how we assess, we have neighborhoods and we will take all the sales in that neighborhood, divide them up into different type of properties. If they abut a conservation area, waterfront or whatever, single them out. And I don't like to use the word average, but we'll find a typical base rate. And that's where people sometimes question our assessments in there, because there's different levels of upgrades that mass appraisal can't take into consideration. Cabinetry, you can spend a fortune on cabinetry or countertops. We come up with a base rate and we strive for that 85%, but it's impossible using this mass appraisal standards to make everything 85%. There's different circumstances on the sell situation and so forth. And like I said, on the upgrades, but at the end of the day, our residential appraisers will look at a neighborhood and they'll envision a bell-shaped curve where the majority of them are sitting at that 85% area. And we're always going to have some on the high side, some on the low side, but that's just the nature of the beast. And when we have questions, like Mr. Wells he hit on it a little bit about the exemption thing. Most of our questions, everybody can accept the valuation. What they can't accept is the taxes that go up when they purchase a house, when they compare a previous owner's assessment that has been capped through the years. And when they buy it and they file for homestead, the previous person's cap is removed, and that's their base starting year. And with the way the market has gone up, some of that is $300,000 and $400,000 cap difference. And they go, the last people only paid $2,500 in taxes. Mine went up to $4,000. It's supposed to be limited. I said, not when that was their cap. Now you're starting yours, and hopefully as the years goes on, the market stays strong, you'll develop a difference between just value and assessed value. But that's probably our biggest question that is the hardest to explain, is the taxes. Everybody was worried about the taxes. And on top of that, all the new subdivisions have the CDD fees on top of it, and they don't understand that we're not responsible for that. So, it's just a long process, when it comes to explaining the tax burden. It's usually the value is not questioned, it's the taxes.
So what's a good way for us as real estate agents to have that conversation with our buyers to say, we can look at the tax roll today, but understand that it's going to be different. What are some ways that we can have that conversation with our clients?
I would just say that I agree with that. And I would just say that you would just say, look, the taxes that you're looking at now is for the people that if they've been there 15, 20 years, there's going to be a market difference. Take that just value number, estimate your taxes off their just value, not their taxable value, because that's going to be closer to what their assessment's going based on, with the exception of whatever market increase we had the next year, if that makes sense.
Sure, absolutely. Does your website have tools or things like that?
Yes, we do have a tax estimator on our website, but they need to make sure they punch in the just value and not the taxable value. And I'm not sure on our website if it's clear, but a lot of people, they'll see taxable value and punch that in as their starting point, and it's incorrect. They should use just value.
Sure. So with right now, it's very much a hot seller's market right now.
Yes.
Property is moving quickly. How does that affect some of the work that the appraiser's office does, or does it not affect what's happening in the market right now?
It does. I mean, we're averaging close to 1,000 single family permits a month. So, we have to have the field staff go out there, pick them up, measure them. We have to get them entered into the system. On top of that, we had 77 new subs put in last year, and those all have to be, accounted for. And it is, the workload has increased, but luckily technology is keeping up with that. And I lost my train of thought, but it hasn't been difficult. It's just been a little more of a challenge, but we're maintaining fine.
Sure. And so what about, you've been here 30 years. How about the opposite scenario back in 07, 08, 09? What sort of effect does that have on the office?
That was a nightmare, but because during the run up, I'm going back to that cap difference. During that run up, their just value shot up, and they developed a gap. But when the market took the downturn, they'd see their just value go down, but their taxable value go up because it goes up till they meet again. So it was a nightmare trying to explain, why'd my taxes go up? Well, because you had a difference. You're not paying on just value yet. It still is going to go up till it meets. So that was a difficult time for all parts of the county, to try to explain exactly why somebody's taxes are going up when their market value is going down. And it's all a function of the cap, and it's written in statute. And I think there should be some simple language if we ever get to that time frame that somebody should get with the legislature and try to get that where at least it's frozen and not still climbing, but budgets will probably won't allow that to happen. You know, the commission and the county will need their tax dollars to move forward. And let's just hope that that doesn't happen again after this run up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, that's a good plug for the Government Affairs Committee. Every year we travel to Tallahassee. We bring these real estate issues to our state legislators, the reps and the senators. So this is all good feedback for us too. You know, we want to know what's happening in the community, but we also want to bring issues that are happening to the community to our legislators too. So that's always good to know, you know, what's good, what's bad, what's happening out there. We also have a couple commercial practitioners I know that are tuning in as well. So we talked a little bit about the residential valuation process. Can I walk us through a little bit when valuing commercial property? What are some things that the appraiser's office does when valuing commercial property?
Well, we with commercial, it is more or less based on income approach. We do blend market and cost with it. We send out income letters every year. We get about a 30% participation rate to develop our cap rates, our rental rates, whatever we need to do. Commercial has been lagging behind the residential growth historically in Pasco County, but we've seen a giant jump in apartment complexes. The outlet mall area has exploded, of course, with a lot of restaurants. The county's changing overnight. As far as a commercial tax roll, I believe, and don't hold me to this, I believe there was like 11,000 commercial properties 2 years ago, and I think we're up to about 14,000 now. So that's a substantial increase in, you know, commercial properties. And we don't have any large industrial type stuff in Pasco County to speak of. It's mainly retail, service related apartments and stuff like that.
Sounds good. Thanks. Is that, do you publish that cap rate information all publicly, or is that more internal documentation?
Internal.
Okay.
Internal. Yes, sir.
Sounds good. So we had a couple of questions, you know, come in. So one of the things too, again, walk us through a little bit from your office's perspective for a brand new first-time homeowner, you know, homestead. What exactly is homestead? What is homestead exemption? You know, what do they need to do to get it? Kind of walk us through from your office's perspective. What is homestead exemption? And then, you know, from a further discussion, got to talk a little bit about portability as well.
Okay, that's a good question.
Portability is confusing.
That's a good question. That's probably the first interaction somebody has with our office is applying for homestead. And they can apply online or in the office. And what we try to tell them is that you have to be in the property by the first of the year to qualify for the following year's homestead. They fill out their application, we review it. If they meet all the criteria, you know, of course, it's granted. And when it comes to portability, we also send out, when a property changes hands, we send out a letter that states you may be eligible for exemption, possible portability, and so forth. The portability question is hard to explain to some people, but all that is the dollar amount between just value and their taxable value from their previous home, as long as it's in the state of Florida. And you take that, and when they port that number to their new address, their new taxable value will be whatever our just value is minus that difference, and that will be their taxable value starting. So they're really not, it has to be equal to or more valuable property when you move, but you get to port that over. Like the other day, I was looking at something that came across my desk, and somebody ported $550,000, you know, so it was probably a good law that had passed for the residents of Florida, but it's just confusing, and you have to reach out to other counties and they have to send you their information. It's a process. So we're in the middle of it. I think we have 200 ports left to do for this tax roll, and we're trying to get them done before trim notices go out. So.
Sure, absolutely. And I imagine that's always a fun time for your office is, you know,
Yes,
trim
sir.
notices deadline.
Yes.
So we as real estate agents, when we're researching property for ourselves or for our clients, we want to know a lot of different things about that property, from taxes to school districts, permitting, all that stuff. Can you tell us a little bit how your office kind of works with those other entities within Pasco County government to be able to coordinate data and transfer data back and forth? So, we can find out from, what tax roll is, what permit information is, school districts, kind of walk us through how your office works together with other departments within the county.
It's all on the website, right? Just everything's linked. You just click on it.
Right, yeah. It's like we're working for that.
Yeah, like I've talked about from the beginning, it's about relationships. When I talk about all of you, I truly mean it. And when I talk about the county, it's funny you asked that question. Kurt, it doesn't mean you can leave, Kurt, but it was always kind of amazing to me, even as a commissioner, like the constitutionals, we never really worked together. I don't want to say, well, that's not the right word, but, and I see Miss Zimmer's on the thing. I know she put a couple in her, obviously her mother was a county commissioner, great lady. But it was almost like we all had our own little silos as a commissioner, as the county, as, tax collector, property appraiser. But now we're all working together, talking through, like we're having meetings every couple of weeks with Mr. Fasano with the tax collector's office, talking about better ways so folks can easily access information. Same with Nikki at the clerk's office. It could be the school board too, because we get a lot of phone calls. Hey, my taxes didn't go up much, but man, the school board went up and this, and then of course they're yelling at us, but it's not our fault. But it's like permitting, for instance, and I don't need to tell all of you this. You see the delay. You see maybe an open permit on a house. You're on a deadline trying to get the closing date done, but there's a permit that's been open that was completed back in 1984. Things like that, where we've really, luckily, my 6 years as a commissioner, I worked with the team. They didn't work for me. We were all equal. That's the way I treat everybody. And it's nice that I have the tools now when I need something, when I can go up to permitting and say, hey, let's talk through this with, Dan Biles, our county administrator, or whoever it is, because it's a tool we need. You guys and girls need to know what the permits are, make sure it's accurate. And it holds us up too, because if we don't get the permit for a pool or whatever for 6 months, a year, it hurts a lot of things, obviously values, accuracy, so we've come a long way in 7 months. But I feel confident, like if we were to follow back up, which hopefully we will, every 6 months or year with all of you, you're going to see a difference. Talking about like the portability, we're getting ready to have that on the website, explaining more dumbed down, if you will, because it's confusing. Like I still don't, I get it, and then we're eventually working on having like a calculator on the website where somebody can put in their numbers, because homeowners, realtors, title companies, it's just another tool to make their job easier. So.
Sure, absolutely. So glad you mentioned tools. So kind of what are some underutilized tools that the property appraiser's website has that we might not know about or might not use a lot? What are some of those underutilized tools?
What's that? Yeah, and this, it's one thing when I came in, like I would see almost like, well, you all know with the homestead application. So I would see like almost like somebody take a picture on their phone, they have to fill it out by hand, and then they're sending it into us. I'm like, we should be able to do this stuff online. I know other counties do. I believe your county does. And Bob's an unbelievable guy. I mean, we got a great, I tell you, the property appraisers, not only in the state, but in this region are unbelievable. But it's, doing things electronically, not having folks. And again, we still want folks to come in. We want folks to come visit our team. We want to help them. But, over the years, I find myself, I don't really want to, I'd rather get it done online. So being able to do that online, make sure it's electronic, a lot of things I see back from folks is, hey, I applied for Homestead, but I haven't heard anything. Hey, I applied for Homestead, but what's this? So we're trying to work on better communicating with the residents, because it's mainly the residents, but we're always learning. And that's where it comes down to you all is, if you have a better idea on something we can do, let us know and we'll do it. I mean, we want to.
Well, be careful what you say to real estate agents, because I found that realtors, especially, once you give them a call to action, they'll call you. So just be prepared for that. You will certainly hear from a lot of our members today.
And we want to, I mean, that's,
Mhm.
you know, obviously we've already got 10 Q&As and I went through them briefly and there's some great questions. There's some great points. There's you know, but again, there's probably not a user, and Jeff, I know we keep track of kind of who uses the website and everything. There can't be a larger user than the realtors. I mean, there can't be. So we want to, it's your website, you know, it's not our website, it's the Pasco County website, you know, for all the residents and users.
Sure, absolutely. So, you know, kind of some local issues happening in Pasco County. Obviously, things like, you know, the moratorium that's happening with multifamily properties, and just the general growth and development in Pasco County. How much does your office, you know, talk with the Planning Commission, with the Board of County Commissioners? Does your office get involved in those conversations, or it's more you let those decisions come to you and then you know, determine what happens? How do, you know, those conversations happen within your office?
Yeah, I guess I'll just, I really wouldn't give them my opinion just out of respect unless they asked it. There is a couple that have asked, you know, my opinion because I was a commissioner and you know, I have my own opinion on the moratorium, but I get it, you know, but we're looking at, when we look at values, we look at, you know, homestead values, how they're capped, and we look at like the apartment complex on 54 and across from the Hooters. Not that I go to Hooters, I go there just for the chicken wings, but I'm just being funny. But the one out there on 54 on the Suncoast, that's and don't hold me to the exact number, I can look it up. And I want to say it was $60 million. And they pay full tax. I mean, there is no homestead, there is no breaks. And it's, you know, my nephew lives out there. He loves it. He's like, Uncle Mike, they got a gym, they've got a dog wash, they've got a movie theater. I mean, it's just what the younger generation wants. And, but again, I respect the board. I respect Commissioner Moore's when it comes to out east, but I've always been the kind of guy the market decides. You know, it's kind of like the values now. And one thing my dad used to say, you know, when the tide rises and the, you know, when the tide lowers, that's where we're at now, the tide still rises and we need to make sure these values are up. And when the tide goes down, which it will, I think very soon that we will adjust, you know, but like the Board of County Commissioners, we came in with a large number, I say at the 10% this year. That's up to them to figure out what they're going to do with the millage. Are they going to lower it? They're going to raise it? Are they going to keep it the same? But again, so I wouldn't necessarily, and I'll give you a long answer, but out of respect for them or the county attorney or county administrator, if they call and ask us, we're going to tell them our opinion. But you know, it's, I think as a county and the planners have done a pretty good job when you look at the communities. You know, they really try to push like the mudroom, which some of you may know what that means. But you look at, like, give an example, like Starkey neighborhood. The idea is to keep everybody inside the neighborhood, get to work there, play there, shop there, everything, you know, and it's called multi-use trip reduction measures, you know, trying to golf carts, walking, where you don't have to go out on 54. That's kind of how we're planning. And I get it. But we still have to be cognizant of others that, you know, like we have an East Pasco rural ordinance that protects those properties in the hills. And there's a lot of things that people probably don't know that we do or we've done. But the commissioners, I respect them. We got a great board. They're doing a great job, but it's not easy. I've been there. It's not easy. You know,
Sure.
but I'm a big land rights guy. Again, I you know, who are we to tell somebody what they can and can't do? That's just my personal opinion.
Well, and that brings up a good point too. You mentioned that about Pasco County itself, you know, just from a geographic perspective, you know, not only how large it is, but how diverse it is. You have very, you know, urban areas, you have rural areas, you know, flatlands, hills, you know, kind of walk us through a little bit, just the challenge of the nature of, you know, geography of Pasco County. How does that affect, you know, the work that you're doing?
It does. Like, you know, you heard Kurt talk a little bit about us doing rechecks or us going out walking, you know, new development. It's, you know, we've got different, I think we have a team of 10 that do that. Is that right? About 10 folks. And we're going to be hiring a couple more, but it is different because obviously you go to a cookie cutter neighborhood, you know, we know where they're all at. And so you could walk 5 houses in an hour to where you go out to East Pasco and it's 5 acres. You might not even get access. You know, that's one of the biggest things I've seen is, and I get it, you know, people, it's changed a lot. The days of knowing your neighbor, being able to go over there and get a cup of milk or sugar or whatever. And, you know, it's kind of like with code, and I'm trying to stay on topic, but I'm, you know, going back to where the state just changed it, where code enforcement, they don't take anonymous complaints. I get it. But the reason we took anonymous complaints is because of, it's changed a lot. We've got these neighborhoods on the east side of on the west side of the county where there's 70% renters. You see it. I mean, it's interesting. Not that renters are bad people, but you all know, and you all know the neighborhoods, and it's right now the values are, I can't believe it. And that's no matter where it is, but it's different. It's the east side. That's what I love about Pasco County, Hillsborough too, and Pinellas as well. We've got the west side, which we still need to improve on, I think, infrastructure when it comes to the water. We still got people on septic they need to get on. They need to eventually get on the city, county sewer and stuff. So I don't know if that totally answered your question, but it's 800 square mile county, huge county, great county, but it's a lot of work just to make your way around the county and do, it really is. So.
Sure. Yeah. So just from a geographic perspective, that might be a couple of challenges. Obviously, you mentioned a few months on the job, drinking out of a fire hose. What are some of those other challenges that you might not have been expecting coming into the office? What are some things that have surprised you with this role that you're in now?
That's a good question. And even like as a commissioner, the most difficult job we have is educating people, like getting so that the public wants to, like, for instance, there's the commissioners, and it's been a hot topic on Ridge Road. They're looking at putting multifamily, like out front of Tanglewood East. And for those of you that are realtors up here in Pasco would know where that is. It's a 1-2+ acre, community, estate community. It's how it was built, and they're wanting to put apartments up there, and it's everybody's coming to me because I was a commissioner. So everybody's coming to me. That's so it's like today I've taken like 6 phone calls, and they're, about county stuff. Hey, how do you like your job? I'm like, I love it, except for everybody calling me. But again, I love my county. It's our county. I love it. I want to help. So I try to help, but I also don't want to undermine it. The commissioner took over for me, Christy. She's a Commissioner Fitzpatrick's a great person, but we need to get stuff done. People need permits. People, we want. So it's been, it's interesting with the values. Everybody's your friend until you say, because right now the values aren't going down. I don't think we met with one person and said, hey, you're right. We're going to go ahead and adjust your value. If anything, it's just been trying to get to that 85%. We found like land values. We found almost $2 million that we didn't have. There've been a lot of things we've done different that Kurt's brought into, where Kurt said, hey, we need several ideas, but it's just, the team's unbelievable. Our community's unbelievable. But it's just being there, being out in the community, listening, making sure we get our values right. Like, car dealerships, I don't want to bore you, but like Sun Toyota is the highest valued dealership in our county, which is incorrect. So we're working on those, but as you know, it's capped. So, Scott Fink just happened to sell his 5 stores. So I can't wait to make sure we adjust those for next year. What's his name owns Lexus, Mr. Can't think of his last name, but he just bought Honda and Toyota last year. So we're going to adjust those, those kind of things. But it always comes down to just a community, just getting out in the community. You don't know what's going on if you sit in your office. My thing's been 70% is out in the community. I'm here 30% of the time. That's where it needs to be. We all need to do that, is my opinion.
Couldn't agree more. So we got a couple of specific questions coming in, and Mike or Kurt will answer. We'll toss these up to both of you. So we started with a couple general questions. You mentioned that 80-85% rule as far as valuations for your offices. Walk us through what exactly did you mean by that 80-85% number, and how do you come to that valuation?
The 85% number is directed by Department of Revenue. You can actually go up to 90%, but the standard in Florida has been 85%. And that is what they consider cost of sale. And it's just a standard that's been set. And, I don't know of a county that goes to a different level, but the way the statute reads is, real simply put, is we assess at 100% of market value less reasonable cost of sale. And 15% has been that standard for the 30+ years I've been here.
Perfect. Sounds good. Couple other questions. So you mentioned, Mike, just kind of more fun. Well, how come the the website doesn't mention bathroom or bedrooms. It only mentions, bathrooms. Walk us through some of those specifics that do make a difference in the valuation of a home. Obviously, a 2-bathroom home is more valuable than a 1-bathroom home. But how about square footage and pools and garages? Can you talk about some of those specifics that when you look at homes and their footprint, what are those big things that make up that valuation difference?
Yes, our Canvas system is based on square footage and bathroom count. The living area is picked up at 100% of base, meaning all that square footage is picked at 100%. The finished garage is picked up at 40% cost of the living area, and upper story is at 90%. Porches range from 40 to 70% if they're finished with some vinyl glass windows or something like that. And what we call living area is if it's under air, is what we call living area. That's it. It's pretty, if you go to our website, you'll see the breakdowns, like the BAS is a living area, FSP would be finished screen porch, FGR is finished garage, and you'll see the gross square footage, and all you would do is times that by 40, and that would be how many square foot we actually add to the pricing of it, if that makes sense.
I think so. Yeah, at least it makes sense for me. So we'll
Okay.
see if we get any follow-up questions on that.
Okay.
How about sustainable features, green features like solar panels, tankless water heaters, things like that? How much does that go into the valuation of the property?
We do not assess any of those features.
Okay, so from a tax roll perspective, that wouldn't be
Yes.
considered. That's more of a market function, a market valuation from a
Yes.
a homeowner's perspective or building owner's
Yes.
perspective. Okay. So from your perspective, and I don't know how often you get asked this question, but how much do people make their buying or selling decisions based on property taxes? How much of a factor should that be in the conversation when someone is buying or selling real estate?
I think it should be a large factor if they're not paying attention to the caps. Some of these younger families, might be living tighter than others, and $1,000 miscalculation on a tax burden could be devastating. I think they should definitely follow up, do their homework, and I'm hoping the realtors do their homework and say your taxes are going to go up. The previous person had a large cap on their building, or the title company. They had a large cap on their assessment. That's being removed when you buy it. You're still getting your homestead, but your just value, that's your taxable value for your first year. It's your just value minus your homestead exemption, unless they ported something from another area in Florida.
Caveat, sounds good. What are some ways, if at all, does your office, take into consideration private appraisals? So appraisals that are done with mortgages, does that factor into any of the work that you're doing, or does your appraisal process work separately from private appraisals?
Ours is based on mass appraisal techniques, and theirs is always going to be higher. The private appraisals will, because they're at 100%, and ours is always going to be something hopefully something under 100% if it's a good qualified set.
Sure, absolutely. We had a question come in about millage rates. I know your office obviously deals a lot with it, but they're not necessarily the ones setting the millage rate. So kind of walk us through that relationship that you have with what the millage rates are and what they might be in the future.
That's
I'll give you, it's a loaded question.
Yeah, well, it's funny because there was an article that, and again, I think the article's good, but the way Bob, who we call him Budget Bob, he's a great guy at the county, he's kind of insinuating your taxes are going up because of us. Well, it's not us. We just give you the number, and the Board of County Commissioners sets the millage, and I don't know what they're going to do. And I don't know what I would do. I think this year and next year is going to be good years, but who knows past that. The Board of County Commissioners got a big ask. So I don't know what they're going to do. I would stay out of that. Like I said, I haven't even really thought about it. Because since I was there, the millage has stayed the same every year, but technically that's a tax increase when you look at it staying the same. They don't want to, So
Right. If the millage stays the same, but the value goes up, you're going to still pay more.
because the value
property.
still, I mean, there's a cap at, I think, obviously, the up to 3%, but the state had the cap at 1.4 this year. So if you have homestead, it's only going to go up, I'd say only, but at 1.4%, anyhow. So yeah, I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. It's just, I know it's recorded, so I'm trying to think.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have a great board of county commissioners though, that'll make the right decision, I'm sure. So.
We had another question come in, from a valuation perspective. The actual construction, either the construction process, construction materials used in a particular property, does that play a factor at all into the valuation of the property, what it's made out of?
Yes, it most definitely. Our canvas system has a cost model inside it. But for example, some of these metal roofs are 5 times more expensive than an asphalt shingle roof. And it's related in our point system and our canvas system. And it's as certain type of floorings, sidings, common bricks more than concrete block, all those go into the system on a points. They have their own level of points. So yeah, of course, the sticks and stones do make a difference. It's not just square foot, but what makes that square foot up.
Sure, absolutely. So we talked about residential, we talked about commercial. Let's talk about land. What are some of the processes that go into valuing just vacant land or land in general without improvements?
That's probably the hardest thing to be accurate on. It's easy to be pretty accurate on these subdivisions where you have 50 the same model homes selling in the year. You can get pretty doggone close with those assessments, but East Pasco is difficult when it comes to raw land. Hilltops are more valuable, and it's hard to maintain a different acreage rate for every hill. That's just too many valuations, and it's sometimes when you start conditioning things upwards, people think it's too subjective, that you're just trying to fit the sale. But raw acreage is difficult. It depends on the zoning. It depends on elevation. Some of these ski size lakes in central Pasco, some of those that are still on acreage parcels, I mean, it's outrageous what people are paying for. Not outrageous, but impressive what they're paying for them. And it's just really hard to come up with a good feel of what is the normal price range, because you could go from one lake to another, and one could be ski size and one could be not quite ski size, and same size lots would sell for vastly different numbers. So it's a challenge, and to try to do it mass appraisal, with our mass appraisal techniques, it's difficult, but we do the best we can and hope for the best.
Sure. So where do you find most of your objections are coming from? What type of property, or is it a specific location? Where do you find you're getting most of those objections coming from of the valuations?
Most of our objections are coming from sales reps, tax reps. Last year, when I wasn't there, I looked at the numbers. I think we had 400 and something value petitions on the residential side. And I believe only 24 were from individuals. The rest were from tax reps that have vast holdings that are representing REITs throughout the country. And I know they're in business to make money, so they're just looking at ways to reduce their tax burden. But
and on that, if I could, and I don't know that a lot of people know the way it works, but and it's kind of ironic, but I happen to serve on the value adjustment board for the last 6 years as a commissioner, and sometimes we have to go against the property appraiser, even my dad at the time, but we really try to, so it's interesting, the process of going through special magistrates, having them make the decision, and then coming to the value adjustment board and us having to make the ultimate decision. And it's not easy, especially on ag. Like, we talk about ag, the ag statute's written very generically on purpose to help the landowner. We are an agriculture state, so I get it, but it's interesting to see the value adjustment board. Like, Ryan Holmes is one I would always see. And then I got in here, I'm like, how many are they fighting us on this year? because they don't agree with the mass appraisal. I get it, but we're always open to look at whatever it is. We're not going to just say no. I mean, honestly, we want to try to say yes if we can, but we have to make sure it's fair and accurate, not favoritisms or anything else. That's the last thing anybody needs to do. So.
Sure, absolutely.
But
So
I just, it's kind of a good process, I think, with the value adjustment board, with the commissioners. School board sits on there as well. So it's nice to have that voice all in all from those different entities.
Yep, absolutely. So we're coming close to the end of our time. We got 2 more questions here, and then we'll call it an afternoon. So another question about valuation, non-traditional homes. So things like tiny homes and things like that. Does, non-traditional homes, how does that factor into the valuation process?
I don't know if we have a tiny home in Pasco County that I'm aware of, but I'm sure it's just based on square footage. Again, and there might be, depending on the neighborhood, it is some sort of neighborhood adjustment added to it. Like right now, this is on the commercial side out there at the Groves Shopping Center. That guy has brought in all those shipping containers and making like restaurants and everything out there. And we're having a hard time deciding on exactly, do we pick those up intangible or do we pick them as real property? So luckily we have a whole year to figure that one out, but that's the only unusual situation that I'm aware of right now.
Okay, sounds good. And so last couple questions, Mike will address these to you. What are some ways that we as realtors can really work with your office? I know you said you're open to it, but what are some issues? What are some solutions that you want us to bring to your office?
Well, I would say like the same thing we did with like the West Pasco Board of Realtors. And even like as a commissioner, I did the same, like went out and met with the different boards, your board, talking through like when we did the rental registry ordinance, before we move forward with that, just because Sheriff Naco thought it was a good idea. And I understand the reasons, safety, knowing who's the renter, I get all that, but I understand on the property side with several realtors and land managers that they had questions. So we didn't make any decisions until we talked to all of you, the ones that deal with it, so, and that's the same thing, like we should never make decisions as commissioners or property appraiser without including the community and the users, so like just a couple of things, and I meant to bring it up earlier, but like with the West Pasco Board of Realtors, some of the search page stuff, and I saw somebody comment on it, but as far as like including the school and non-school values column, so people can look that up, sinkhole status with the actual year made sense. I never thought about it, but when the realtor's like, hey, it would be nice for us to actually look at it, click on it and see when exactly the sinkhole was repaired, when exactly the sinkhole was decided. And then also, and I think the question I had from somebody was about the CDDs. And that was an issue because you had the tax collector was dealing with it. And so trying to make sure it's more accessible with the status on the CDDs, with the fees. So, because you see a lot of folks, you talk about like the taxes, like you asked Kurt earlier, but I lived out at Water's Edge, and the fees, and Brendan, who's, our PIO guy, he's got some fancy title, but I'll just call him the PIO, but he's way more than that. But he lives in Water's Edge where I just sold my house, and the fees are going crazy, with the CDD fees. So I get it. But I would just say one thing we did with the West Pasco Board of Realtors, and if you'd like, I'll print out the questions and answers, and we could send back an email maybe to you or to everybody with some of maybe the questions we didn't get a chance to answer. Maybe we can answer them in more depth, if you will. But is to maybe send out something to all your members saying, what questions do you have? What's good on the site? What's not good on the site? Again, I said it and I'll say it again, the best ideas come from others. We want to hear from you. And I tell you, the West Pasco Board of Realtors, it was great. The members, I was surprised the engagement. But again, it's our county, it's our state, it's our community, so.
Absolutely. Well, Mike, we thank you very much for joining us today. Again, for those of you that were watching, this was part of the Greater Tampa Realtors Government Affairs ongoing series, where we talk with our local elected officials, local organizations, people involved in the community that have an impact in the lives of real estate agents and our clients. If you liked our conversation today, we meet once a month, the first Friday of every month at 9:30. Our next meeting is going to be Friday, August 6th at 9:30 a.m. at Greater Tampa Realtors at our location on Kennedy. So we're excited. It's our first in-person meeting this year. So if you're interested in coming and learning more about these issues in Pasco County, general real estate issues and business issues in the state of Florida, we invite you to come to our Government Affairs Committee to learn more about it and get more connected with your community. So before we go, Mike, any other final parting words of wisdom or anything else you'd like to share with our group before we head out?
No, the biggest thing is just know that we are accessible. We want you to call us. We want to help you. We will go anywhere IT wise. If they've got anything, we will take the time to walk through. As minute as you may think it is, there's no dumb questions. I mean, ask them. We want to help. I mean, that's what I like about, especially with the country today. I'll just leave it at that. Everybody, it's got a bad taste in their mouth with government maybe and the way government works. But I tell you what, we run like a business. It's crazy. We got an unbelievable team. So, hopefully that you all see that. Hopefully if you have to interact or you have one of your clients that has to interact with our offices, hopefully you're hearing great things. And if you're not, we want to hear about that too. But I'd be more than happy to send my email, give you my cell phone. I know folks like, you're crazy. Why would you put your cell phone on there? Well, we work for you. We work for the residents of the county. That's who I work for. So if I want somebody to call me, I do have a couple people that call me at night. My wife gets a little upset. It's 10 o'clock. Who the heck's calling? I'm like, I get it, honey. But no, we're here for you. We really mean that, truly. So we want to hear. So whatever interaction is minimum or as max is, we'd love to get involved more with your meetings, maybe go down there, those kind of things, to put a face to a name and shake some hands and just thank everybody. So
absolutely. Well, we would much appreciate that. And we will certainly keep this line of communication open for as long as we can. So again, Mike, thank you very much for joining us today. Everybody on the call, thank you very much for watching. And we all hope that you have a great weekend. Take care and thanks again.
Thank you. Have a great weekend. And I'll post my cell phone or however you think I need to do it. You tell me.
Yeah, we'll get you that information. We'll send it to all of our members with the follow-up email here. So again,
Awesome.
that'll work.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
you. Great job. Great job. Thank you.